man. I'm out here trying to show Christopher Nolan that I have range, and all I can hear is you whining.
There's a moment early in the studio where Matt Remick, played by Seth Rogen, is standing in a room full of executives who pretend to be creative visionaries. They nod along to every pitch, they praise every idea, they swear they believe in art. Yet every decision in the room is controlled by fear, brand identity, and spreadsheets. It's funny until you realize it's not supposed to be funny. The studio isn't just another Hollywood satire. It isn't just making fun of franchises or mocking corporate notes or exaggerating the chaos of filmmaking. What makes the studio special, and honestly, what makes it one of the smartest shows of the decade, is that it understands something deeper. Hollywood is absurd, yes, but it's also heartbreaking. For every ridiculous reboot decision, for every franchise extension, for every synergy opportunity, there are real people underneath it, real artists whose dreams are constantly squeezed between passion and profit. The studio isn't simply a show about Hollywood, it's a show holding a mirror to Hollywood. The reflection is both hilarious and painful, affectionate and cynical, chaotic and heartbreakingly true. The studio is one of the most honest dissections of modern filmmaking I've seen in years. But wait, let me do a quick recap. Matt Remick becomes the new head of Continental Studios, a fictional Hollywood studio that operates as a perfect Frankenstein for Disney, Warner Bros., Paramount, and every mega studio you can think of. The show follows him as he tries to juggle the studio's dying prestige, the executives' obsession with brand-safe franchises, talent who are barely holding on to their sanity, pressure from shareholders, pressure from audience expectations, and his own genuine love for filmmaking. In other words, Matt Remick is fucked. He's the only artist in a room full of corporations, and the show thrives on that tension. What's brilliant about the studio is that it never chooses between comedy and authenticity. It refuses to pick one. Instead, it treats Hollywood the way Hollywood actually feels when you're inside it. Funny because everything is ridiculous, sad because it shouldn't be this ridiculous, relatable because everyone is pretending they know what they're doing, terrifying because the fate of art is left in the hands of brands and algorithms. Each episode is anchored in one major studio crisis, losing a director, a star is threatening to quit, a conflict between art versus marketing, a ridiculous note from a higher up that derails an entire production. Episodes aren't random workplace hangouts, they're usually built around one urgent production problem that forces everyone to reveal who they are and how the system works. But underneath each crisis is a bigger theme. Hollywood is a machine that eats passion and spits out profit, and yet people still choose to work in it because sometimes, and I mean sometimes, it also makes magic.
Being the head of Continental is the only job I've ever wanted.
Yeah, I'm honored, obviously, to be one of the people that gets to choose, which movies get made and which ones don't. That's huge. And I got into all this because, I love movies, but now I have this fear that my job is to ruin them.
Characters work as mirrors of the industry. A good satire is only as good as the people inside it, and the studio gives us a cast of characters who each embody a specific Hollywood archetype. Matt Remick, the creative in a cage. Matt isn't a cynical executive who climbed the ranks by stepping on people. He's us, the audience, the creator, the person who believes movies matter. His arc is the emotional backbone of the show, the slow unraveling of someone who wants to make good art but is surrounded by chaos that punishes originality. I'm not a big fan of Seth Rogen, but I gotta give it to the guy. He plays Remick with a surprisingly layered performance, equal parts exhaustion, disillusionment, stubborn optimism, and quiet grief. He's funny, but he's also deeply tragic because the show is honest about the real emotional cost of working in an industry that pretends to love creativity but operates on fear.
We love new ideas.
Just not too new, because we got a pretty tight formula that we got to hit.
I wouldn't say it's a formula so much as a structure that we 100% know works, so we're going to do it over and over again.
The supporting cast of executives each reflect a different sickness in modern Hollywood. The metric-obsessed CFO, the algorithm whisperer who thinks data is a muse, the VP of IP who sees every movie as a potential cinematic universe, the Fox progressive marketing strategist whose diversity ideas sound like AI prompts. None of these characters are villains. That's the beauty of it. They're not evil, they're scared, because the real villain of Hollywood isn't a person, it's risk. Directors, writers, actors, animators, the show treats them all with empathy. They are eccentric, insecure, chaotic, but they're driven by something real. They love movies, they want to make something meaningful, they want to create. And watching them collide with the corporate machine is where the studio finds its emotional resonance. It understands a fundamental truth. Most people in Hollywood are dreamers trapped inside a nightmare of business decisions. The studio is Satire as truth, and this is the heart of the show. Here's why. 1. Hollywood doesn't know what it wants, it only knows what worked before. One of the ongoing jokes in the series is the studio's obsession with franchise logic. The studio executives approach creativity as a checklist of proven formulas, instead of an exploration of new ideas. Something succeeds once, the industry copies the shape of that success, not the soul, not the intention, not the context, just the recognizable parts that can be monetized. So instead of asking, what is this story trying to say, the question becomes, can it be serialized? Can it be cross-marketed? Can it be expanded? Can it be adopted into another format? Can it become IP? It feels like the writers broke into a real industry meeting and just took notes. 2. The show understands the insecurity behind the system. Hollywood doesn't operate on confidence, it operates on fear. Fear of losing money, losing talent, disappointing shareholders, being cancelled, looking outdated, being wrong. Every decision becomes reactionary. Every idea becomes a compromise. Every film becomes a product. The studio shows how people can be swallowed by that fear, even when all they wanted was to make something beautiful. And 3, it's funny because it's true. The satire is never exaggerated, which leads to the real comedic thesis. Hollywood doesn't need exaggeration to be funny, it's already absurd. But here's the part I love most, because I want more of this show. Critics absolutely loved it. It won a whole bunch of Emmys. It got universal acclaim for writing, performances, and direction. Seth Rogen got some of the best reviews of his career. But mainstream audiences, the buzz was solid, but not explosive. It wasn't Squid Games or The Last of Us. It wasn't a cultural takeover. It was more like Barry, or hell, even Severance. Shows that didn't hit the mega mainstream penetration, but deeply resonated with the people who watched them. And honestly, that fits the show thematically. A show about the struggle to make art in a world obsessed with profit, being loved by critics, beloved by niche audiences, but not dominating mass culture. That's poetic. But hey, there is a deeper layer. Hollywood is running on tradition and innovation at war. Everything is being pulled in opposite directions. New tech versus old methods, IP franchises versus originality, AI versus human creativity, corporate visions versus artistic expression. The studio sits in the middle of that cultural moment. Creativity has never been more valuable or less protected. Just like the characters, we live in a time where the audience wants originality, but the system rewards safety. Artists crave freedom, but corporations crave predictable returns. It's a contradiction the show captures perfectly. Everyone in Hollywood is performing, even when they don't realize it. This is the emotional heart of the show. Every character is pretending they're confident, pretending they're in control, pretending they know what will work. And yet, despite all the pretending, they care. They genuinely care, and that humanity is what the show celebrates. The studio isn't just a good Hollywood satire, it's one of the most revealing shows about the film industry in years. One that understands that Hollywood is hilarious, Hollywood is heartbreaking, Hollywood is inspiring, Hollywood is exhausting, and Hollywood is built on a foundation of people who love storytelling more than they love safety. What makes the studio exceptional is that it doesn't just criticize, it empathizes. It sees the artists, the dreamers, the executives trying their best, the insecure leaders pretending to be confident, the entire machine built on a shared delusion that movies can change the world, even when money tries to stop them. And maybe that's why the show resonates, because everyone who has ever tried to make something, anything, knows this battle. Battle between what you want to create and what the world will let you create. The studio isn't just a satire, it's a mirror, a documentary disguised as comedy, a confession disguised as fiction, a tragedy disguised as a joke, and in that balance, that messy, painful, hilarious balance, it becomes something rare, a show that loves movies enough to tell the truth about them.